Hi, gorgeous. This is Gaëlle, founder of the Rockstar Wellness series. And today I have someone amazing for you. She's the chief habit scientist. Her name is Dr. Tamsin Astor. I love it. I love it. We have a doctor on stage. Come on. Welcome, Tadine. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so pleased that you are with us because the subject is around routine and habits. And most of the time we're struggling with that. Can you stick to a new habit? Or sometimes we think that we don't have any time in terms of energy, or we are too busy, or you putting people needs first before ours. So that's why I'm so glad you're here because we're going to dive more into this subject today. Ladies, gorgeous to tell you. So Dr. Tamsin, she's helping busy people like us, to have more time, more energy, and more fun. And I do believe this is what we all want.
Absolutely.
So she's also the author of a book which is called The Force of Habit, that you can see just behind her with a beautiful yellow cover. And my first question for you, Tamsin, will be, what is the force of habit?
So the power of it's really about the power of habit and how habits are amazing, because over half of what we do at work every day is habit. Over half of what we do at home every day is habit. And over 90% of our self-care actions are habit. So one of the things that is really interesting about habit is that most people talk about habit in the negative. They're like, I've got this bad habit of, and they kind of slump into feeling bad about themselves. And I want people to remember that habits are amazing and our brains are these goal achieving machines. And if you harness the technology right and you create the right habits for yourself and build the right routines, you can have an amazing life with time for what you want, time for what you need, and time for fun.
I love it. I love it. I love this mindset shift about habits because it's true. Most of the time, we don't see our habit as so great or as so good. So why, from your perspective or from your experience, maybe you're so passionate about for us to develop great habits?
Because it's really about creating some kind of automation. And one of the things that's funny, when we have little kids and they eat food at the same time and they go to bed every time, there's something very containing about that. And that boosts productivity because it's reducing the decisions. Because we make about 35,000 decisions every day, which is incredible and insane and also really overwhelming. So the thing about habits is that if you create good habits that are automatic, you don't have to think about them. And when you're not having to think about them making decisions, you're creating more time and energy for all the fun and other stuff in your life. So that's really what it's about. So it can feel kind of boring, and I was really resistant. I was like, that's like so old lady to like plan my meals and plan when I exercise and plan bed, because this is like, I'm a grown-up, like I'm gonna do what I want when I want. Like, I'm not gonna have a bedtime, I'm not gonna plan my food. But actually what it does is when you plan that out is it reduces the decisions. So then your mind has got all this extra space and you've got all this extra time to do fabulous things in the world and have fun.
So it's again a mindset shift to say, yeah, better to plan my day and better to plan everything. Like this, I have plenty of time to really do everything I want. Okay, that is pretty smart. It's pretty clever in a certain way.
Right.
So from your experience, and I know you have a PhD in neuroscience, and I love everything about neuroscience. Can you tell us basically how can we stick to a new habit or a new routine?
So when you think about habits have three components. They have the cue, which is the thing that triggers the habit, right? You see a particular person, you do a particular behavior. You're in a particular room, you do a particular thing. You have a feeling, you do a habit. It's a time of day, you eat or drink something, right? So you have a thing that cues the habit. Then you have the actual behavior, right? The action, the thing you're doing, which most people think of as the habit, but there are these bits on either side. Then there's the reward. What are you getting out of the habit? Now, the thing about habits is that most of us, when we think about changing them, like getting rid of ones that aren't working or adding new ones, is we use willpower. We're like, I'm going to go to the gym every morning at 5, and like everybody's in the gym in January. By like the second week of February, nobody's in the gym, right? Because they've just been using willpower, because they haven't been looking at the cue, they haven't been looking at what's triggering it, and they haven't been looking at what am I getting out of it. And so that's one of the keys when you're thinking about habits is, are you looking at what's triggering it, and are you looking at what's giving you the reward? What are you getting out of the habit? And that's where the neuroscience comes in, because those three things happen in different areas of the brain. The actual behavior itself is happening in the basal ganglia, which is a lesser evolved area of the brain, which means we have less access to it, like less consciousness about it. Whereas the cue and the reward is happening in here in the prefrontal cortex. So we have more access to it. So one of the reasons most people get stuck is they just go straight for the behavior. They're like, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to stop eating donuts. I'm going to journal every day. I'm going to stop this and add this and, you know, and it's like, holding on really tight. And of course, you know, it's like a muscle. It fatigues. And after a while, you know, I mean, New Year's resolutions, by February, 92% of people have quit. Because they're holding on. They're not using the wisdom of the brain and the understanding of the neuroscience to create that link, right? So when you start looking at what's the cue, is it the people around me? Is it my environment? And what am I getting out of it? Then you have more access to the changing that habit cycle.
Ah, it's fascinating. Honestly, I'm listening to you. Wow. Because not a lot of people know about it.
Right.
Because I'm aware about, you know, the environment is key, basically, to create your habits with a specific time, a specific day. But what is happening sometimes is we forget about the finality, we forget about the vision, you know, which is connected to our habits.
Totally. And the vision is really key too. The way I describe it to my clients is, the daily habits are like the microscope, right? You're like looking down there and going, this is intimately like what's going on right now. But the vision is like the telescope. You know, you're like looking into the future and going, where am I going? And why is this important? And why am I walking towards that? And that's another part of connecting that piece up. And often that gets broken with the reward people. You get stuck with the immediate gratification piece rather than the long-term, you know, I am doing this because, right? So for example, if you want to, you know, say you have this plan that when your child graduates high school, you know, graduates school and is going off to college, and you think, I'm going to do this epic trip with my son or my daughter, right? When you have a son, right?
I have a daughter.
You have a daughter. Okay. So imagine you want with your daughter to, you know, hike up Machu Picchu when she's 18. And so your vision is, you know, we are going to do this epic trip together before she goes off to college and leaves home, right? And then you think, okay, well, what do I need to hike up Machu Picchu, right? I need to be fit. You know, that's a strenuous thing. Yeah. I need money, right? This is going to cost money. And I also need to create work circumstances that I can take 2 or 3 weeks off to go and do it, right? So you've created this vision, right? You see yourself hiking up there. Maybe you look at pictures of Peru, you imagine the food, you know, all of those things. But then you find yourself sitting on the sofa, watching Netflix, eating a pizza, you know, and then, you know, and then getting on like Instagram being like, oh, I'm going to buy that like $94 like eye cream. And, you know, like you're not connecting that daily habit to the vision. And so it's this toggling back and forth that's really important too, is that if you keep that vision in the forefront of your mind, it's going to help keep you going.
Because, you know, from my experience, for example, I love working out, but I'm really intense at first. It's true. I'm using willpower, but I connecting it to my vision, but it seems like it doesn't last. It seems like I need to have all the time a kind of permanent visual to remember about it. So if you have a client like this, for me, for example, you say, okay, I'm starting something, I'm really into it, I keep going, and life gets on the way, or an urgency is coming up, and it's so hard, you know, to start over again. What would you say to this person?
So there's 2 things I would say. The first is that getting started requires the most energy. So getting started on a new habit is like a rocket ship that uses 90% of its fuel to lift off but 10% to start doing its orbiting, right? And heading off to the International Space Station. So that's the first thing to be aware of. So you want to create as many of the circumstances so that you can launch, because that's the hardest piece, and then keep it going. The second piece is that we have limited willpower, as you articulated. And because of that, when you are adding a new habit, there are a couple of things that are really key to do. One is get it done earlier in the day, because willpower fatigues and runs out during the day. So for exercise, for example, if exercise is your thing, do that like before you eat breakfast, before like anything. Do that first. Get it out the way, right? The second is when you're creating a new habit, it takes a minimum of 30 consecutive days for the habit to stick. So if you do it 5 days a week, it's not going to stick in the same way as if you do it 7 days a week. So it's not so much about the time, it's about the consistency. And the piece of research that I think is the most compelling about this, which I love, is the research on astronauts that NASA did. And what they did was they put these goggles on their eyes, which flipped the world upside down, because they were trying to understand what would it look like if they were fully disoriented. How did it affect their brain? How did it affect their digestion? How did it affect their muscles? And so they had to wear these all the time. They had to eat in them. They had to sleep in them. They had to shower in them. And what they found at about day 26, one of the astronauts' brains flipped the world upside down. So it rewired. And he didn't and the world was now the right way up. And the rest of the astronauts in the study all changed within the next 4 days. So they were like, okay, so it takes about a month every day consistently for this new habit to form. Then they decided to do it again, and they split the group into two. And what they did with one group is at 15 days, they took the goggles off and then put them back on again to see whether you just need 30 days and you can do it over 3 months, or whether it has to be consecutive. And what they found is it has to be consecutive. So when you're starting a new habit, do it every day, even if it's for 3 minutes. So if you're trying to add exercise and say you can go to the gym on the way to work every morning, right? Or you go to a yoga class every morning on the way to school, or you bicycle to work, right? So something that's Monday through Friday. Saturday and Sunday, you want to have that habit. Again, if you wake up and you do it, you want to have it in the same order, because that's going to make it stick. That's the way the brain fires and wires, right? But maybe you just need to do it for 5 minutes. It's about the consistency. So consistency. So as one of my mentors used to say, reduce it to the ridiculous. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It's about just doing it every single day, because that's what's going to create the wiring in the brain.
Yes, neural patterns and everything. So it's quite interesting, this consistency point, because this is something a lot coming up for entrepreneurs. When you want to build your audience, when you want to create a community, consistency is key. From your experience, how did you manage to apply this consistency in your business?
That's a really good question. So one of the first things I did was I committed to communicating with them regularly. So I've been writing a weekly newsletter for, weekly since 2015, 16. Every week I've sent, and in that 5-year period or so, there's only been, I think, two times that I haven't sent them, literally every week. So it's like, hey, this is something to think about. This is what's going on. Think about habits in this way. Think about mindset in this way. Think about vision in this way, right? Think about your food, your sleeping, and so on. So that's one piece, is I decided I had to regularly communicate with my audience, right? I also have to regularly communicate with people like you who are also entrepreneurs, right? Because it can be a very lonely journey.
It's true, indeed.
Right? And it's important to have people around you who understand what you're going through, because it's a completely different thing than working for somebody else, right? So communication with my ideal clients, communication with the people I want to serve, and then community and connection with the people who are doing similar things to me were really, really key for me. And that also, when you think about those habits, I, am certified in Ayurveda, and Ayurveda is the Indian science of health and medicine and well-being, right? And there are 3 different doshic frameworks in that. And understanding my own framework, my own unique profile, my energetic profile, has also been really helpful in how I create consistency in my habits, because the thing that I am most dominant in is the air and space energy, which is why I move a lot. I'm really like, whoa, you know. But so what that means is that I need containing, right? So I need to be in a mastermind. I need to have that, you know, right? Whereas somebody who is, you know, and I need a space where I feel like that's containing me and moving me forward, right? And so, you know, so understanding your Ayurvedic profile can also, you know, I mean, and there are lots, there are state tests and trait tests and all of these different ways of understanding who you are and how you show up. But, you know, really understanding yourself and what you need, and thus the habits you need to create around that is also really key, I found, as an entrepreneur. So understanding what I need and want to succeed.
Yeah. So a question of really self-knowledge, self-care, self-awareness, three together, ready to be as confident and assured as you want to and show up as an entrepreneur. And that's why I think the force of habit, it's such an essential component of it, because you want to create these habits in order to be this confident woman or leader that you want to become. It's amazing.
Exactly. No, and I think, and the other thing that I think is also so key around this, and I think a lot of us have seen during the time of COVID, has been this issue of boundaries, right? And, you know, it's even harder when you work for yourself because those boundaries are not explicit in the same way. You know, if you're working for an organization that says be on this Zoom call meeting at 9 a.m. That's one thing from, you know, you and I, who could be going, well, you know, I could put out a webinar, but like, if I don't, is it going to matter? You know, right? Or I'm going to work 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, you know, and try and teach my kids and try and exercise and you know. So creating those boundaries is really, really key too. And then creating the habits that support those boundaries, right? Like, you know, it's 5 o'clock or whatever, I'm going to turn off my computer and walk away, right?
Yeah. But I think it's really good in the sense that when you're aware about what you need, you can really, really make this boundary more respected in a certain way. You know?
Absolutely.
Regarding your energetic levels, for example, you know, me on the morning, I'm really more awake, energetic, and I know I can do so many things. But around 8 p.m., this is a time for a glass of wine and just to relax in my cozy sofa.
Right, exactly. And that's also in the Ayurvedic model, that is the time that's called cuppa, which is an earth-water time. It's a time of day. So you are actually reacting, you know, appropriately to that, at the energy of that hour. So trying to push through it is actually not a healthy thing. And that when people talk about like, I'm a night owl, what they're doing is they're relying on the fire energy, pitta, which starts to peak around 9:30, 10 p.m. But actually, it's actually designed to detox our digestive tract and our mind. And the research is actually really, this is where I love where the East and West come together, because, you know, Ayurveda has been saying this for years, like this fire builds up in our system. And a lot of us are like, okay, right, you know, we take that, like, you know, that second wind energy. But if you allow that energy to go in, your brain shrinks. The cerebrospinal fluid, which surrounds the brain, increases and washes out the brain. So your memories are detoxed, right? Things are moved from short-term memory to long-term memory, and your gut digests food. But if you're awake, all that fire is going out into the world, like whether it's folding laundry or watching TV or writing content.
It's really, really interesting. And, you know, for the way you speak, the way you work with your clients, you blend it. So Ayurveda with neuroscience, with, oh my goodness, I love that. I love that, because I heard so much about Ayurveda, but I don't even know which is my, I don't know all the details. But I think it's great that, you know, when your energetic levels, you know, have to respect them and embrace them to make your day your day.
Well, exactly. And it just makes it easier. And I think that's really what so much of this is about, is that it's, you know, when we understand ourselves, when we understand the energy of the seasons of the time of day, and we create these routines based on habits, we're not fighting. We're not pushing through and going, I need that cup of coffee. I've just got to willpower myself to the seat and write that email. And, you know, and that's also, it brings a sense of ease and calm to life, you know, and it sort of relates to this idea of how you're creating, it's about creating systems, like, you know, the coaching program that you and I are both in, right? And it's what systems can you create so that you can step back a little bit, you know, and it's a similar thing about the way you approach your life so that you can appreciate your life, right?
I love that. Building system in really, you know, to create this flow of harmony and ease in your day instead of rushing it, which is a kind of very masculine energy. Let's be honest.
Right. And it's also something that as entrepreneurs, there's a sort of inherent piece of that energy that we all have, which is the desire to create and do things that nobody else has done and put something out there. And there's that sense of like, whoa, you know, which has that, right? And so it's like, okay, but like, let's step a little bit. Sometimes we don't have to keep pushing in that masculine energy if we figure out how to get into that flow, right?
Yeah, because I noticed it is when I slow down and I'm more grounded, more into this half energy, as you said, that everything is flowing and I have more ideas and you know, it's not rushed. It's just natural.
Yeah, totally. And so then, you know, you get more done because you're not battling and you're not in a constant state of fight flight. And I think, you know, one of the things that's so traumatic for so many people, whether it's because of COVID, whether it's because of all the, you know, like the Black Lives Matter movement, you know, like people who live, you know, the LGBTQ community, people who live in a constant state of fight flight, either due to their race, their gender, or a habit that they've gotten into because they feel like that's the only way that they can keep going. Long term, it's incredibly depleting. Which is why I feel really compelled in a sort of broader social context way to really face this. I mean, that's my bigger mission, is that when we really understand habits and we empower people with knowledge about the way their bodies work, about the way their minds work, about the way they work together, and how we can work better together in community and foster that, the world is a better place.
Totally. Absolutely. Totally agree with you. Especially now with so much individual and collective stress. There is a toll on our well-being and so much emotional agility that this is the time for everyone to learn how to create this healthy relationship with their body, mind, and spirit.
Right.
And this is such a big opportunity for you, like all other entrepreneurs, having a mission basically to raise this awareness, to raise this consciousness, and helping people to create the lives they want.
Exactly. And I think, I mean, that's really my bigger mission in life is for people to have freedom. I mean, that's really the thing that drives me, is people having freedom. And for that, we have to create policies that support them, right? Habits, education, access to information. Because I just think when people have access to information, whether it's women and girls having access about their health and how their bodies work, whether it's women having access to money and finances and schooling so that they can create systems and run businesses, the world is a better place, you know? And that's really what all of this, for me, like, this is the way I personally do that, but that's the bigger vision I think I have for the world. And that, you know, habits can seem really dry and boring and everybody's like habits. And it's like, but it creates freedom. Right?
It creates space.
Right. And that's really what is my big driving factor, is that I want people to have freedom.
I'm absolutely agree with you. I'm so much an advocate of freedom, you know, and we all deserve it. And I do believe that when you empower women, really from this perspective, health, body, mind, spirit, finances, everything is working together. And I think we overcome so many barriers, so many bad experiences,
Mm.
that it's time now to empower ourselves. You know,
Mhm.
where we are, yeah, we are liberated, but we
Yeah.
are not empowered.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
is the difference. So,
Totally.
do you have anything for us in terms of? I know you have your book, which is amazing. I love the cover once again. Do you have anything coming up as a group coaching or book?
Yeah.
Anything for us?
Yes, I'm doing a 9-month coaching program for women starting in September, where we will be going through a lot of the stuff that I've been talking about, creating your big vision, looking at your daily habits, and then connecting the dots with this overlying lens of Ayurveda as the guide for the habits. I've got 2 women enrolled already, and I'm looking for 10 more fabulous women. And I'm also building a 3-month men only one, because I've had a number of men reach out to me. So, and I think it's really interesting to have space for the two, so that people can really dive into more of that masculine or feminine energy. So that's also launching in September. So that's really, I'm really, really excited about it. I'm in doing the 12-week women's one right now, and I'm loving the transformation and the community, because I think one of the things that's really interesting about this work is that when you say it in front of other people, like what we're doing now, and you say, I'm taking a stand for myself.
Yeah.
You're putting that energy out into the world, and it makes it more real. It's more likely to happen, you know?
Yeah, it's a big difference when you just think about it and you say it with conviction and passion that this time you're going to do it.
Exactly.
You create immediately a virtuous circle. You're not aware about it.
Yeah.
But it's coming.
Totally.
It's the law of attraction, and it's working very, very fast. More you're bold, more you're passionate, like you and me.
Absolutely.
And more it's coming back to you with amazing, amazing opportunities.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Tamsin, to have been here. I will put all your details in the comment section for you, gorgeous. Tamsin it's absolutely, absolutely expert at what she's doing. I really praise her because I love what she's doing. And it's true. You know, if you can really create and develop great habits, creating more freedom for us and more empowerment, this is the time now.
Let's do it.
So, yeah, you will see Tamsin, Dr. Tamsin, on my podcast as well. Dr. Tamsin, do you want to add anything else for the people watching us?
Thank you so much for listening. And ultimately, you have to take radical responsibility for your own experience. And if you take radical responsibility for your own experience and you look for people like Gaëlle and I to support you through that journey, you will have the life of your dreams.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much.
Mwah.
Thank you so much.
Bisous.
Ciao.